You think no one notices your weakness? You think your insecurities are invisible. But every hesitation, every nervous smile, every word, too many, betrays you. In the eyes of others, these mistakes scream, I am unsure, I can be controlled, I am powerless. Today, we uncover the 12 subtle habits that make even a seemingly strong man appear weak, and why eliminating them is the first step to true authority. 1. Over-explaining yourself. Have you ever caught yourself spilling every thought, every intention before anyone even asks? There's a reason this happens. A weak man fears judgment more than he craves respect. He believes that if he explains enough, if he just lays out every step of his mind, no one can challenge him. But here's the harsh truth. Over-explaining is a signal of weakness. It broadcasts your insecurity louder than silence ever could. Machiavelli saw this centuries ago. He understood that true power is not in words, it is in action. The ruler does not explain, he moves, and the act itself announces authority. History is filled with men who achieved greatness not by persuading others of their intentions, but by letting the world interpret their moves. Napoleon didn't stop to justify his campaigns. He acted, and the results spoke for him. The moment you over-explain, you are giving away what should remain unseen, predictable, and strategically ambiguous. Here's the subtle but devastating effect. Over-explaining turns curiosity into contempt. People stop wondering what you will do next. Instead, they already know. They see your explanations, your justifications, your fear, and suddenly you are no longer a mystery. And in the psychology of power, being a mystery is everything. The solution is simple, but it takes discipline. Speak less, act deliberately, and reveal only what serves your agenda. Let your words be rare. Let your pauses create tension. Let others chase meaning while you remain untouched, untouchable, unpredictable. One controlled word at the right moment carries more weight than 1,000 explanations. Ask yourself, when was the last time someone was truly intimidated by how much they knew about you? Or conversely, when did they feel powerless because they didn't know what you were thinking? The man who understands this secret doesn't beg for respect, doesn't justify his actions, and never over-explains. He lets the world wonder, and that wonder becomes his weapon. 2. Constantly seeking approval. Have you ever noticed how some men seem to live in a constant loop of seeking approval, like it's oxygen they cannot survive without? Every compliment, every nod of agreement, every tiny acknowledgement becomes their lifeline. Here's the brutal truth. Looking for approval is like wearing your ego on your sleeve. It is an open wound for the world to see. And the world, it does not pity weakness. It exploits it. A man who constantly seeks affirmation has already surrendered his internal compass. He has outsourced his self-worth to the judgment of others. And once you do that, control slips through your fingers like water. Authority, attraction, respect, these are never granted because you ask. They are noticed because you command. They are observed in the way you move, in the decisiveness of your actions, in the silent confidence that radiates without explanation. Think of the difference between a king and a beggar. The beggar pleads for recognition. The king does not. The king does not even notice the requests. His presence alone makes others take notice. Approval is a tool, not a currency to collect. When you stop asking, when you stop fishing for affirmation, something almost magical happens. People begin to chase your validation. Curiosity replaces contempt. Respect replaces indifference. Here is the Machiavellian secret. Never ask, always demonstrate. Let your results speak. Let your actions carve the narrative. Let others lean into your authority without ever realizing you never handed it to them. Stop seeking permission to exist. Stop asking for approval. When you master this, you become untouchable because the world can no longer dictate your value. 3. Apologizing excessively. Do you realize how many men weaken themselves simply by saying, "I'm sorry," too often? Every unnecessary apology is a tiny fracture in your armor, a public declaration that you are unsure, guilty, or inferior. People sense it immediately. They see hesitation and they exploit it. Over-apologizing doesn't earn sympathy, it broadcasts doubt. It whispers to the world, I am not in control. Machiavelli understood this instinct centuries ago. True power does not rely on contrition, it relies on presence. The ruler who missteps does not collapse under the weight of his error. He corrects silently, strategically, and with a calculated response that restores balance without diminishing authority. The weak crumble, grovel, and apologize, hoping forgiveness will salvage their stature. The strong redirect, reposition, and dominate, not by words, but by deliberate action. Consider this. When you apologize for every minor fault, you train the world to expect weakness. You condition people to see you as pliable, manipulable, and ultimately disposable. Power lies in restraint. Power lies in the confidence to act, to correct, and to remain unshaken without uttering a single sorry. Here's the secret few, understand? An apology should be rare, deliberate, and strategic. Use it like a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. When wielded correctly, it can disarm. When used recklessly, it destroys. The man who masters this doesn't grovel. He doesn't beg for forgiveness. He stands, acts, and reshapes perception because true authority is never self-declared. It is commanded by presence, by control, by the unspoken dominance that says, I decide the rules, and I will bend them only when it serves me. 4. Fidgeting or nervous habits. Have you ever noticed how the smallest movements, shaking hands, tapping fingers, shifting weight, can betray everything you're trying to hide? These microsignals, almost invisible to the untrained eye, are like neon signs flashing uncertainty to anyone who watches closely. Predators, manipulators, even casual observers instinctively sense them, and they act accordingly. The moment your body betrays fear, your power diminishes even if your mind is sharp. Machiavelli understood that control over oneself is as important as control over others. Your body is not just flesh and bone, it is a weapon, a signal, a declaration of intent. Every posture, every gaze, every controlled motion broadcasts authority. Nervous habits scream weakness. Stillness, deliberate movement, and unwavering focus whisper dominance. When the world sees a man who commands his presence, uncertainty ceases to matter, because the aura of control alone is enough to disarm opponents. Here's the subtle art most never learn. Fear will surge beneath the surface, it always does, but mastery lies in concealing it. Make your posture rigid, yet natural. Let your gaze meet theirs without flinching. Move like a predator surveying its territory. Measured, deliberate, unshakable. Even when chaos stirs inside, your exterior must communicate calm supremacy. Think about it. The world doesn't just respond to words, it reacts to what it feels radiating from you. Trembling hands invite dominance. A controlled body invites respect. Master the art of silent command and the world bends, even before you speak. 5. Inability to make decisions. Have you ever watched a man hesitate, trapped between choices, as if the world might collapse depending on his next move? That hesitation is far more revealing than he realizes. Indecision is the perfume of the weak. It signals doubt, vulnerability, and lack of control. Every moment you defer a choice, every maybe or I'm not sure, is a silent vote of non-existence. The world notices. Opportunists, manipulators, and predators sense it immediately. They move in. They take what they want because you have left the door wide open. Machiavelli understood this instinct centuries ago. A true ruler, a man who commands respect and fear alike, does not wait for clarity or perfection. He decides, sometimes wrongly, sometimes harshly, but always with authority. History remembers the bold, not the hesitant. Napoleon's genius was not in his infallibility, but in the decisiveness that made his enemies falter. Even a poor decision made quickly is far more powerful than endless rumination. Indecision invites dominance. Decisiveness commands it. Here's the subtle trap most men fall into. They mistake caution for wisdom. In reality, hesitation is weakness dressed in patience. The strong know that clarity emerges after action, not before it. They make choices swiftly, accept consequences, and redirect their course with strategy, not panic. Others may argue, resist, or doubt, but by the time they react, the decisive man has already set the rules of engagement. Ask yourself, do people manipulate you because you hesitate, or do they hesitate because you act? The difference is everything. Master the art of decisive action and suddenly the world bends to your timing, your authority, your will. Indecision is a luxury the powerful cannot afford. It is the shadow of the weak. 6. Overly justifying your successes. Have you noticed how some men cannot celebrate victory quietly? They feel compelled to explain, to justify, to prove, almost as if their achievements need an audience to validate them. Here's the harsh truth. Over-justifying success is the hallmark of insecurity. The moment you feel the need to defend your accomplishments, you reveal fragility. The world sees the cracks behind your polished exterior. Machiavelli understood this subtle dynamic. Authority, influence, and respect are never earned through explanations. They are observed, absorbed, and silently acknowledged. True power does not need a microphone. The ruler's successes speak in reputation, in results, and in the whispered acknowledgement of those who cannot ignore him. Bragging is flashy, but justifying is fatal. It is a silent confession that your confidence is conditional, that your worth is negotiable. Consider this. A man who achieves quietly becomes a force of fascination. Others watch, they speculate, they envy, and they are powerless to challenge the aura he projects. Validation comes naturally, not because it was requested, but because his presence and results demand it. The strongest men let their achievements ripple outward like hidden currents. They shape perception without uttering a word. Here's the subtle secret most miss. Success is a weapon, not a story. When wielded correctly, it commands attention and respect. When explained, it invites scrutiny and diminishes authority. The world always notices, but it never needs a lecture. Master the art of silent influence, and your victories become untouchable. Justification is weakness. Quiet dominance is irresistible. 7. Sharing too much personal information. Have you ever noticed how some men reveal everything about themselves the moment they feel comfortable? Every fear, every doubt, every fleeting thought spills out, hoping somehow that connection, understanding, or even pity will follow. Here's the harsh reality. Oversharing is not intimacy. It is submission. It is a subtle surrender of power, a gift of leverage to anyone who chooses to take it. Machiavelli understood the potency of mystery. Vulnerability is a weapon, but only when wielded with precision. When scattered recklessly, it becomes poison that weakens rather than empowers. The strongest men disclose sparingly. They reveal fragments, carefully curated glimpses into their world, enough to intrigue, to stir curiosity, to provoke fascination, but never enough to be fully known or understood. Think about the difference. The man who overshares becomes predictable, readable, and manipulable. The man who reveals selectively becomes untouchable, a force others strive to decipher. Curiosity replaces contempt. Wonder replaces indifference. Every unanswered question, every unspoken truth is a thread of control, subtly woven into the perception of others. Here's the secret few grasp. Your personal life is leverage, not a conversation starter. The moment you begin to explain too much, you hand over authority, inviting judgment, pity, or manipulation. Master the art of measured disclosure, and you become a figure of intrigue. People chase your secrets, they speculate, they elevate you in their minds, all without you having uttered a single desperate word. Oversharing is weakness. Strategic silence is power. 8. Being easily distracted by opinions. Have you noticed how some men bend, twist, and falter at the slightest criticism? Every opinion, every comment, every passing judgment becomes a tug on their confidence, a push against their direction. The world is loud, full of voices, critiques, and distractions, but not all of them matter. The insecure man listens to all of them, letting every whisper shape his choices. The powerful man, he filters ruthlessly. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. Influence is not granted by consensus, it is carved through focus and decisiveness. To allow every opinion to sway your mind is to turn yourself into a puppet, dancing to the strings of anyone willing to tug. The strong know that the true measure of control is the ability to discern which words are valuable and which are noise. Every irrelevant opinion you absorb dilutes your authority. Every unnecessary reaction exposes weakness. Here's the subtle, dangerous truth. People will always try to distract you, to undermine you, to inject doubt. The moment you entertain every voice, you relinquish power. Mastery lies in selective attention, listening only to what sharpens, strengthens, and advances you. Let the rest wash over you, ignored and irrelevant. Think about it. The man who commands his focus, who is deaf to unnecessary chatter, becomes unshakable. He is a fortress in a world of storms, unbothered by the winds of judgment. Command your attention, protect your mind, ignore the noise. In a society obsessed with commentary, the ability to filter ruthlessly becomes your greatest unseen weapon. 9. People. Pleasing at the expense of principles. Have you ever seen men twist themselves into shapes they don't recognize, all to keep others comfortable or happy? Every nod, every forced smile, every compromise that erases your own standards is a brick removed from the foundation of your authority. The weak bend, adjust and appease until their principles vanish entirely, leaving only a shadow of their original self. Machiavelli warned centuries ago, a man without a line cannot defend his territory. Authority is not earned by comfort, it is carved by conviction. When your behavior is dictated by the preferences or approval of others, you forfeit the one thing that cannot be taken: respect. People-pleasing is the cloak of the insecure, a mask that hides fear and dependence. Principles, however, are the armor of the confident. They make you untouchable, predictable only in your unpredictability, and unassailable in your authority. Here's the subtle but devastating truth. Those who prioritize the comfort of others over their own code eventually lose everything that makes them dangerous. Influence evaporates. Power retreats. Even admiration turns into disregard because people sense you can be bent, pushed, and swayed. The man who holds fast to his standards, however, forces the world to adjust to him. Curiosity replaces contempt. Respect replaces indifference. Ask yourself, do you live for others' approval or do you command your world through unwavering principles? People-pleasing may feel safe in the moment, but safety is the refuge of the powerless. Master the art of principled dominance, and suddenly no one's comfort dictates your path. Your armor becomes invisible, but unbreakable. 10. Reacting emotionally to criticism. Have you ever watched someone explode at a single critique, as if the world itself had collapsed around them? That reaction is a window into chaos, a mind ruled by impulse rather than strategy. Emotions are powerful, but left uncontrolled, they are catastrophic. The insecure man erupts, defends, laments, or justifies, giving the world a vivid display of his inner disorder. Every outburst is a signal. Vulnerability has arrived. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. True power lies in the ability to absorb blows without breaking, to turn attacks into data, and to respond only when it serves your agenda. Criticism is not ammunition for self-destruction. It is intelligence, information to be analyzed, measured, and leveraged. The strong man never reacts on impulse. He observes, calculates, and acts deliberately. Every word, every gesture, every delayed response strengthens perception of control. Here's the subtle but devastating truth. People will always try to provoke, to destabilize, to expose weakness. Those who fall for it feed the predators around them, handing power to anyone willing to claim it. Those who master emotional restraint, however, turn attacks into tools. They convert insult into insight, challenge into advantage. Curiosity replaces contempt, or replaces disrespect. Ask yourself, are you living at the mercy of others' words, or are you using every jab, every critique to fortify your position? Emotional control is not just discipline, it is dominance. The man who masters it becomes untouchable, because the world can never predict how he will respond. And in unpredictability lies fear, respect, and silent authority. 11. avoiding conflict at all costs. Have you ever noticed how some men recoil at the first hint of confrontation, as if tension itself were poison? Avoiding conflict is not wisdom. It is weakness dressed as caution. Conflict is inevitable. It is the test that separates the powerful from the passive. Men who fear it send a silent but unmistakable signal. Their boundaries are negotiable, their presence is optional, and their authority is disposable. Machiavelli understood that power is not preserved through avoidance. It is forged in confrontation. The man who commands respect does not flee the storm. He stands within it, unshaken, deliberate, and controlled. Boundaries are asserted with clarity. Limits are enforced without hesitation. Every challenge is met with a combination of strategy and resolve, not panic or retreat. The insecure hide from the storm, the strong bend it to their will. Here's the subtle but devastating truth: avoidance invites exploitation. The world is full of opportunists waiting for hesitation, for the moment you doubt yourself. Every avoided confrontation chips away at your influence, your reputation, and your presence. The man who faces opposition, who engages when necessary, immediately shifts the balance of power. Even if the battle is not won, respect is earned. Ask yourself, are you shaping the world around you, or are you letting it shape you? Strength is not measured by comfort, it is measured by courage, by the willingness to assert control, and by the refusal to surrender authority. Avoiding conflict may feel safe, but it is the refuge of the powerless. The man who commands it becomes untouchable because he alone determines the rules of engagement, while others scramble to keep up. 12. Letting small losses shake you. Every man will stumble, every plan will falter, but how you respond defines whether you are weak or dangerous. The insecure flinch at every setback, exaggerate their failures in their own minds, and seek reassurance from others, as if validation could erase the loss. Every tremor of doubt, every plea for comfort broadcasts vulnerability for the world to exploit. Machiavelli understood that perception is reality. The strong do not collapse under defeat, they bend, they absorb, they recalibrate. Small losses are never weaknesses. They are masks, cloaks that conceal strategy, patience, and the seeds of future dominance. To panic over minor setbacks is to teach the world where your pressure points lie. To respond calmly, deliberately, and with calculated subtlety is to turn failure into an invisible weapon. Here's the subtle but powerful truth. Temporary defeat can be your greatest ally if wielded correctly. Every minor loss becomes a lesson in control, an opportunity to refine strategy, and a chance to emerge stronger, more feared, and more respected. The world only notices permanent weakness. Impermanence becomes your camouflage. The man who never lets small failures shake him sends a silent, unmistakable message. Nothing, not criticism, not loss, not opposition, can unseat me. Insecurity is not erased by catchy slogans or empty bravado. It is dismantled quietly, deliberately in the mind, refined in every posture, every word, every pause, every silence. Machiavelli's lesson is relentless and precise. Power, respect, and authority are not won by pleading or proving. They are cultivated through the absence of neediness. Stop seeking approval. Stop over-explaining. Stop justifying your existence to anyone. Control your body, your gaze, your motions. Command your decisions, your revelations, your presence. Let others interpret, guess, and speculate. Never hand them the answers. The man who walks through the world without begging, apologizing, or defending himself becomes untouchable. Not because he inspires fear, but because he is utterly unpredictable, impossible to read, impossible to manipulate. Understand this: insecurity is a mirror. Every tremor of doubt you display reflects weakness to the world. Destroy that reflection and suddenly no one can see vulnerability in you again. You become the man whose presence commands attention without demand, whose actions speak louder than any words, whose silence weighs heavier than any declaration. Authority is no longer borrowed, it is inherent. Respect is no longer requested, it is demanded. Power is no longer conditional, it is absolute. Walk that path. Master these truths. And when the world tries to shake you, remember, the untouchable do not react. They endure, they calculate, they dominate. Insecurity dies quietly, power rises quietly, but its effect? Unforgettable.